we got the MOZA R3 bundle for a review here. MOZA was kind enough to send us this one, and I can tell you straight away, this is probably the smallest wheelbase that I have ever seen. Just look at this thing. It's pretty much the smallest thing. I mean, I don't think even non-direct drive wheelbases or belt-driven, anything other than that, have such a small wheelbase, but this is a direct drive. So from the name, we have R3, but it's actually not 3 Newton meters, it's 3.9. So a little bit, I would say a little bit on the lower end of the steering wheelbases. In general, if we want to compare something like this to, let's say, a Logitech G29, and the Logitech has about 2.2 Newton meters of torque, so this one has 3.9. So I don't want to spend too much time talking about the specs of this product, because I guess all of the MOZA bases are starting to become kind of a standard base. I guess all of them look pretty much the same, except for this one, it's Xbox compatible. I would say we can already start to say these SRP pedals are becoming a standard in pretty much most of the MOZA kits now, on most of the MOZA bundles. And on top of that, we got the ES steering wheel, which is pretty much the same as in the R5 bundle, except they changed a couple of things. I mean, the leather is different, so it's not actually leather anymore. Not really sure if I prefer something like that. I can say that, you know, it works well, the grip is that great, but I do prefer leather grips. I do prefer something, let's say, a little bit better. And I think this is exactly why I wanted to showcase most of these products and bring, I would say, most of the MOZA ecosystem right here. So you can see at this point, we got a couple of these products already here. We got the SRP light pedals. They also come in the R5 bundle as well as in the R3 bundle. I don't want to spend too much time talking about them, but I want to show you how these wheels look side to side. For example, you can actually see the difference between the Xbox steering wheel and just the normal PC one. So here, I think it's pretty obvious. You can see the buttons are a little bit different, one side to another. There is also an Xbox button, which it's just a startup button right here. They really haven't changed much. So the steering wheel stayed mostly the same, except that on the PC version or the R5 bundle, this is leather, but here it's not. So I'm not really sure, once again, what to think about it. It provides a decent grip. I'm not gonna say that it's like the worst feeling ever, but I believe that the R5 bundle or the ES steering wheel with the R5 bundle had kind of a premium feel. I mean, you can literally see the difference in here. I like the leather, I do like it. This maybe provides a little bit more grip, but it just does not give you the same looks. I mean, if you want to compare wheelbases, we can put them side by side, and you can eventually see that this wheelbase, in comparison to the R5 bundle, this is probably the smallest wheelbase that I've seen in a while. So it's pretty light. I would say it's pretty standard MOZA design, but also there is pedal dash, shifter, and then we got the HB and emergency stop button, and of course the usual stuff, which is the power supply, and of course, just to mention, as usual, we got the power switch right here. So it's not like usual on other wheelbases. It's not up front. This is a standard for MOZA. It's at the back, so sometimes it's a little bit hard to reach it, but I think in general it's kind of okay. I mean, you get used to it, and I mean, it's not really a big issue. So I thought about showing you a couple of these wheelbases side by side, and I've also got the R12 here. You can see that comparing the R12 to the R5, it's just a huge difference. This is incredible. This, by the way, provides 12 Newton meters of torque. This is 3.9, so the difference is quite obvious. And I don't even have to talk about the weight of this thing. This is pretty heavy, but on the other hand, this is pretty light. I mean, what can I even say? Differences on the back, not that many differences. In general, we're looking at the pretty standard MOZA ecosystem. And yeah, their quick release system, I don't know if you noticed, but every MOZA wheelbase has one of the best quick release systems out there. So it's super easy to change the wheels, and just as I said before, it's on all of their wheels. And what do I need to highlight here? I think probably the most important thing are the shifters. So if we have a further look down to the shifter pedals, you can actually see that they're the same. So the R5 or with the R5 bundle or free bundle with literally the same ones, same type. This may be a little bit more loud, but I guess I played a little bit more on this one, so it's not that noisy. Yeah, once again, it's, I cannot say, but you can also hear it out. So, I mean, not the loudest that I found in all of the MOZA ecosystem, and even as we have a look at the steering wheel, which is the Formula 1, you can see this is a little bit smoother than the the ES steering wheel on the R3 bundle, and on top of that, you got this pretty nice clutch pedal. I mean, of course, this is much more expensive. This product is starting at $400 US. In Europe, it can be a little bit more expensive, and you need to include taxes. So 400 plus you add an additional taxes whenever you're shipping to or wherever you live. In Europe, it's going to be a little bit more expensive, around 420 euros. It depends on where you buy it. And I believe the steering wheel will give you a good idea on how much force feedback you need, what is good, what is bad on the track. But I believe the pedals, definitely, I will just put that to the side now. But the pedals are the most important piece of kit. I know I think I've said it a couple of times already, and I just think that the pedals will give you that optimal, I would say the optimal line, or just the right feeling on the track. So that's why I brought pretty much the closest contender out there. We got the Fanatec CSL pedals, but you might notice that I also got this load cell kit on these pedals. So let's say we just need to put this to a side. We're not gonna review this one already. We just need to compare these two pedal sets. And as you can see, there isn't really much to say. These are almost the same. I mean, I don't even know about the design. The base plate it's pretty much the same. I mean, you got literally the same options as on the Fanatec one. If we put it on the back, you can see that this is a little bit different. I mean, but in general, look at these mounting holes. Everything is so similar. Maybe the wiring isn't exactly the same, but literally these are almost the same pedal sets. You also got these nice rubber pads, and if you're using it on the floor, it's not going to move much. So that's something that I would like to highlight on this one. And if I put it once again here, you can try to compare these two. So if you ever tried these Fanatec CSLs, you know that the brakes aren't really the best one. I mean, here we got the accelerator and we got the brakes. The brakes are slightly stiffer, but in general you can see that I'm not putting a lot of force. And even if we are comparing this one to the CSL load cell, the load cell, I can just push, but the load cell won't move. So if you want a clear difference, this is the normal one. They're pretty much the same acceleration and brakes, a little bit stiffer on the brake side, but look at the load cell. Load cell is barely moving, but here I can just do it with one finger. So that's why I do recommend getting one of these. Fanatec only offers load cell, but on the other hand, we got this nice little accessory kit for the SRP light pedals. So I think this is pretty much a deal breaker for me, because this is such a small kit, maybe 30 euros, I believe it's no more than that. And you can put it straight on. You can see how easy it is to install it. Of course, I gotta put in a little bit more power. I already assembled it, but never mind. And you can now see that we got a little bit of a stiffer brake pedal for 30 euros more. So I believe that this kit is a must. So if you're buying an R5 bundle or R3 bundle, this is a must. So this is absolutely something that you need to get. I don't think it's even an option, and I think MOZA needs to start including something like that into their pedals. This was a complete game changer. I mean, I don't know how to express myself in that way, but this has been just, whoa, as you can see, it goes right off. I didn't break it, I guess. So basically you're getting double value with just a little kit like this. But here on the other side, you can actually see that there aren't many like the official products for Fanatec. There isn't really many. And you can only buy this low cell kit, and low cell kit is pretty much as two of these pedals combined. I think it's 130 euros. So it's pretty expensive. This thing is 30. It gives you a much better feel of these pedals or the SRP pedals. And on top of that, I also wanted to compare this one with its closest contender. So now we can just put these wheels side by side. So the GTDV Pro wheel from Fanatec, it's really light, a little bit more plastic into this one. I think this one has a bit better materials. The shifters actually feel like shifters, while on the GTDA Pro they are not really the best. But in general, I don't think this wheel, I think they saved a lot of material, a lot of cost on this wheel, while MOZA invested a lot of their, I would say a lot more money into the wheel itself, and maybe try to lower the price in that point. So we got the R3, pretty much the smallest wheelbase that I've ever seen. And if we just put that side by side, you can actually see the differences. So this is made for PlayStation. Unfortunately, this is not compatible with PlayStation. I also tried to use this little adapter. It did not work. So if you're trying to use this one, which is actually Brooks Resolution 2, it needs a bit of update. So a little bit of time needs to pass until this gets updated, and you might be actually able to use this one. So if you're watching this video, let's say a couple of months later than I actually posted this one, this might be worth getting, this might be worth giving a shot, but it's also 130 euros, so it's pretty expensive. Considering that this is 300 or 400, I would say euros or dollars, it depends on how you look at it. This piece of kit, just to get the PlayStation compatibility, it's worth it or not, I don't know. Definitely, I would say that if you need to buy a PlayStation compatible wheel, buy it. If you need it, it needs to be compatible. Yeah, it needs to be compatible. I mean, it's as simple as that. And one more thing, I also brought this CAMMUS steering wheel. I mean, one of the most unique steering wheels on the market at this point. It's integrated wheelbase into the wheel itself, makes it quite unique on the market. But I also wanted to show you how it looks side by side. So leather coating, pretty much the same as on the standard ES steering wheel. This one is a little bit different, as I said before. The shifters on this thing are much better. So if you're just trying to put that side by side, you can see a little, I don't even know how to explain, but these are probably the smallest shifters that I've ever seen. On the other hand, these are quite nice to reach. I had absolutely no problem reaching that at any certain moment, even when I was turning the wheel almost 90 to 180 degrees. Well, actually, it wasn't going up to 180 degrees, but let's say in really tight terms, I think it was pretty okay.
And now we got the software part, or the MOZA Pit House. Here you can customize the output of your wheelbase. And as you can see, there are a couple of options that you can choose from. Also, my preset is exported on my website. So if you're trying to get something like that, if you're trying to copy my one, yeah, it's going to be down in the description. Everything is linked, as well as these products. And you can see from basic settings, we are going all the way down to game force, feedback, intensity. I tried a couple of these settings already, but these were in the end what kind of gave me the best experience overall. So, I mean, you can probably get a little bit of a different experience. You can always customize it to your own personal preference. I just do have to highlight that I was using this bass at a 100%. And there is also a way that you can customize the output of the wheelbase. You can change the frequencies. I do like when the car, when the car actually loses control, and I mean, when it goes off the track, I do like to get a little bit of that firm, nice kind of information from the bass. Okay, you went off the track, it's there, there is going to be less grip. So yeah, that's what I highlighted this, and here you can actually customize most of this. Power output, this is where I just try to keep it as simple as possible. Linear is the one that I used. I mean, you can do whatever you want with it. I haven't really found a purpose in this yet. I mean, you can customize it. Yeah, of course, it's going to be about your own personal preference, but linear one, I believe, is the best one. And also, you can customize these buttons. I mean, everything will, of course, it can be set up in the game, but you can just customize the rev meter and the rev indicators. You can just a little bit of adjustment, but it's here. I haven't really touched it that much, but yeah, as usual, it's good to have more options rather than less. But now, let's go into the driving experience of actually going around of the track with this wheel. So, R3, I mean, I was using the Nürburgring GP track just because I was using that week and I got a little bit more experience than usual. So, the first thing that I would like to highlight is pretty much the pedals. So, the pedals were decent. Trail braking without the accessory kit was, I'm not gonna say that it just wasn't as consistent as it's supposed to be. It just wasn't there. I mean, honestly, if you don't get the accessory kit, I kind of think that the pedals are just not gonna have the same consistency. Of course, it really depends on which pedals are you picking. I mean, you can buy some other pedals. Load cells are always better. But if we're just discussing this one, I think the pedals are okay. They do need a little bit of work, but I guess with the accessory kit they just become more reliable, more consistent, and in general you will be able to reach some turns in a much better way. So later I just decided to give this one a go with the accessory kit, and my times were much more consistent. So usually I was about 2 to 3 tenths of my usual pace. It was okay, and then at one point I thought, okay, this is it, and then I just blew it in the last section. But again, you can see that the force feedback on the wheel is kind of okay. I mean, it's getting me just the information that I need to get. I mean, everything is how it's supposed to be. Hitting that 50-meter sign, okay, a little bit, I would say I missed it a little bit, but that was mostly because of the pedals. Later with the accessory kit, as I said before, it was actually a lot better. And in general, I was setting some pretty decent lap times. It wasn't just the best lap times in the world, but a 54.0. This is actually my second attempt. When I updated my settings, I was playing with the settings for about an hour, but in the end I was able to kind of get relaxed and really get into the zone in about an hour and a half, about 2 hours. So I think the transition from my regular wheel that I'm usually driving was pretty simple, and it was pretty straightforward. So a couple of mistakes, when I got used to the pedals, when I got used to the feedback of the wheel, I was just hitting apexes and getting some decent lap times. Of course, if you need a better lap time, of course you will need different conditions. These were a little bit harder conditions. I think it was 24 degrees outside, so it wasn't really optimum. I mean, it was okay to get at least like a low 53. In the end, I think I was almost getting like a 53.3, but I think I never really reached such a high esports level on this track. So I think if this wheel is in the right hands, I didn't think it's going to. It's definitely going to get some results done. I mean, the force feedback nice and clean. You can see that the wheelbase is clipping a little bit. I think it's because it's 3.9 Newton meters. Yeah, if you don't like the same amount of force feedback that I'm using, if you're just transitioning from, let's say, a lower torque wheelbase, like Logitech G29 explained a couple of times, 2.2 versus this kind of 3.9 Newton meters, this is pretty much going to have the same output as Logitech G29 if you're running at about 60%. So you can put that into perspective and say, okay, there is a lot more. There is definitely a lot more in the wheelbase that can be used, and not necessarily all of that clipping has to be done in this way. So the lap times were going down, the lap times were getting much more consistent, and I was just trying to really feel what the base was giving me. Hot lap mode, of course, in some different conditions, as I said before, it could have been a little bit different, but you can see the response rate from the wheel, it was pretty nice. I mean, even at some corners I felt like the wheel was actually helping me to get into that place where I wanted to be. I mean, I'm not very sure how was that happening, or the feeling was just so much different, but just when I was about to lose control, the wheel actually helped me to kind of stay in line, to help me with the rotation, and you know, just to keep me on the track and make me do better and more consistent lap times, and overall they were faster. So you can see here, I got a little oversteer on the way out of that corner, but the wheel just gave me that tiny bit of information more, and I was able to correct it, and it was good in the end. So here, I know this corner is usually one of the slowest ones, and I was kind of oversteering at the same time, but I was kind of keeping it controlled. So I mean, it's difficult to explain the feeling, but in general the times were getting more consistent and the times were getting really quick later on. I mean, this corner, a lot of trail braking needed. If you don't get it right, it's a bit of a mess, and especially like the last section in here. But I mean, what can I even say? Just the experience was really great. I mean, I have nothing to add. Maybe if I wasn't using the wheelbase at 100%, if I was using it about 80, maybe there wouldn't be so much clipping. Yeah, I mean, it's okay. If you're using the full potential of the wheelbase, then it's better. If you're not, then it's always different. I mean, this wheel is $400 US, so I do understand why is it at this price point, and I do understand all of the pros and cons.
So, is this worth it or not? Is this wheel actually worth it or not? I mean, it's hard to, once again, it's very hard to say, is it worth it or not? Because you got so much competition going on. PC users, yes and no. If you think 3.9mm at this point is okay, yes, why not? Logitech G29 users that are trying to get something better, only playing on PC, yes, why not? It's a much better piece of kit. Pedals are much better. The R3 it's just a much better wheel. In general, what I would recommend if you're starting to get into serious sim racing, I would be considering getting an R9 or the R12 bundle. So there isn't really a bundle, but the R12 or R9 base. R9 base hits just kind of a sweet spot, but the R12, I think if you're really trying to get up to professional level or just trying to feel everything out there, I think this is actually worth considering. R12, R3, yeah, I think it's good for the beginners, but in general, it would, after a while, I think it's always going to be a good thing to maybe move on to something more expensive. I know the prices here, this is pretty much, only the base costs pretty much like this whole bundle. So yeah, it's a considerable investment, and if you're trying, once again, as I said, if you're trying to build like a solid piece of kit, a solid rig, I would recommend R9 or the R12. But if you're starting up, you're just a daily casual driver, R3 is just going to be good enough to go with. Unfortunately, we do not have PlayStation 5 compatibility, which I think for most of the users is going to be it's going to be a deal breaker. Just as I said, I even tried using something like that. It didn't work, it wasn't compatible, but I believe in the next couple of months they will update the firmware and it will become compatible. On top of that, the MOZA ecosystem is constantly growing, and you can of course use something like that. You can use a handbrake, you can use a hub, you can use pretty much whatever you find on their website. They're constantly expanding, so I believe more wheels will come in the future. So investing in the R3 wheelbase when it goes on the market without the bundle, it might be worth considering. I think it's going to be a decent investment. So guys, I don't know, let me know what do you think down in the comments, and if you are considering getting one of these or not. Everything will be linked down in the description, and if you're considering buying any of this, it's all on my website, and I will also post the links down in the description. So once again, thank you very much for watching this video, and until the next time, bye.